And now, Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks.
Welcome to Move the Sticks, presented by New Era. Bucky, we've got some great New Era hats here on the table, and we've got a lot of ground to cover today.
A lot of ground to cover. This is really an outstanding podcast video show that we're doing today because we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to our heart, prototypes at the position. We did an off-season series where we looked at some of the top positions and what are the prototypes there. Today, we're going to cover it by talking about the running back position. We have outstanding guests, Maurice Jones Drew, Terrell Davis. We got Titans general manager John Robinson coming on to talk about the running back position and who are the prototypes at that position.
Also talking training camp spotlight. We're taking a couple of these divisions each episode and diving in, trying to find that one storyline we're really focusing on with those teams. And again, NFC East, AFC East does not get any bigger in the National Football League than those two divisions. Storylines abound, but we're going to focus in on the one thing we're really looking forward to watching this year.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun to talk about that.
All right, let's get things kicked off, though. This is our, again, position prototype series. We got the website. You can go to nfl.com/MTS prototype. You can find the entire episodes, the list of episodes we've had. We've gone through all these positions. But today, we're going to focus on the running back position. Bucky mentioned it, some great guests. Here's the best of our position prototype series on the running backs. All right, Maurice, first question from me. If we go back and look at your career, which was a phenomenal run that you had, and I had to just kind of narrow it down to the two or three things that you would say made you what you were as a player, attribute-wise, what would those be?
For me as a running back, I think the first thing you have to do is be a great open field runner. And so for me, that was something that I was able to utilize in the screen game from my days in high school and college, returning punts and kicks. Is putting me in open field, getting me in space, and allowing me to, use, some moves or being able to set up blocks. Those are some of the great things, especially that's with the way the game is changing right now, where, you can throw a little swing pass or a screen pass to a back, put them out in space and kind of create things. I think contact balance is another one that you see. Being able to take hits and still stay on balance and keep running. And lastly is short area quickness. And that kind of goes with being creative. So I think you look at Shady McCoy. So many times everyone thinks a play is going to be blocked perfectly all the time. That's never the case. So 90% of the time there's someone in the backfield firing through. You got to be able to stop, make that person miss, try to get back to the line of scrimmage and get yards after that. And that's where the creativity and the short area quickness comes from. For the back, those three things to me are what kind of you're starting to see the game go to. And I was lucky and fortunate enough to play with a guy like Fred Taylor who had that at 230, 6'2", but then also watch other players as well that did those things.
I'm glad you mentioned Fred Taylor because I want you to kind of discuss him. I think his name kind of gets lost when we're talking about these great running backs all throughout the last maybe 20 years. And we see guys like David Johnson, what he's been able to do, Lev Bell, what he's been able to do. I don't know if there's ever been a package in terms of the size, speed, power that Fred brought to the table. Go on a little bit about your former teammate there.
Well, DJ, listen, I thought I was fast, right? I felt like I ran 10.5 in high school in the 100. I've run anywhere from 4.3 low to 4.3 high. So I was like, I'm fast. At Fred at 26 or 27 was rolling past me. I mean, he was still running low 4.2s at that point. So to be 230 pounds, to have that, and to be, the one part that a lot of people didn't understand is his mind of football, the way he thought about the game is kind of, that took me to the next level. We had a running back coach by the name of Kennedy Pohl that would challenge us to do that. And so I remember one time Fred took a run play that was supposed to go to the right, and he cut all the way back left and took it to the house. And I was like, why did you do that? And he was like, well, the safety wasn't where he was supposed to be, and the linebacker. And so when you have a guy that has the ability to do all those things and think and understands what he can do, athletically and all those different deals, it was crazy to see.
When you're studying an opponent, not only are you looking at scheme, but you're looking at the individual personnel. Is there examples? I mean, you don't have to name names or anything like that, but you knew, okay, hey, if I get in the open field against this linebacker,
who was the big safety?
He doesn't have the strength to get me, or he doesn't have the lateral quickness. I can make him miss.
Who is the big safety that came out of SC that went to the Bengals? Taylor May is a great example. We were playing them.
Yep.
And I remember, like, you watch tape, you could see him drop his head and close his eyes every time. And so we just knew that we had to get within a yard or two, and he was going to do it, and you could just slide to the side. And so, I'm throwing a shot at SC anyways, but I'm just saying like that. So you would study tape.
That's odd. Yeah.
Right? You study tape and you continue to pick up things. And everyone has a tail. And so you just want to study tape to try to find it. And really, for me, it was the big three things I studied were one was pass routes, right? So because I was a third down back, so I had to be able to block guys. So how do they pass rush? How do they cover?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do they tackle? And if I can tell that you're a leg tackler, I know I have to pick my feet up to get over you. Bob Sanders, for example, is a big-time leg tackler lunger. But then there's every now and then I can, if I was going against my boy Antoine Bethea, I knew that he was more of a safe. He's like a corraller. He's going to grab you and try to
catch and wrap.
Yeah.
A catch wrap tackler.
He's a catch and wrap. So I would like shake him up and then just try to run through him, right? And so you just learned as you played, there's different guys that you do different things with each week, each game, each possession. There's times where we'd play the game within the game, and I don't know if people know about that, but the game within the game is, in the first quarter I may run you over. In the second quarter I may shake you. In the third quarter I may shake you again. In the fourth quarter I'm just going to try to run past you. So now I have you guessing and not understanding what I'm going to try to do. And we'd have people on the sideline that tell us, like, all right, it's the second quarter. Throughout the week you said you wanted to do this. And then you'd go in the game and do that. And a lot of that when you talk about the one thing we haven't harped on is balance. I did ballet as a kid. So I was a gymnastics ballet kid as a kid. And a lot of people didn't really understand.
Was that a comfortable experience for you as a young kid?
Well, you're 5 or 6 years old, so everybody's doing it. But
you're good.
My grandma, I think she said Lynn Swan did it. So they put me in there for a year. But it really taught me how to control my body. And so when I would get hit, I knew how to tighten my core up or different things to be able to bounce off, spin. You just learn more of what you can do. And I've done that with my kids actually to start putting them in gymnastics and different tumbling things so that they can learn their body, because that was something that I had an advantage over a lot of guys who never did it and didn't know what to do.
Last question for me, then I'll let you run. I've always wanted this. Sometimes you say when you hit a home run, and go back to just playing high school baseball, if you just hit it sweet, you don't feel anything. I mean, it's just the most beautiful thing. You swing right through the ball. You don't even feel the contact. When you hit Sean Merriman, did you feel anything, or was it just like hitting a fastball right in the barrel?
No, it was a little bit heavier than a ball, I think. We had set him up. Let me break the truth. He had got set up that whole drive. We had we had our tight end block him one time. We had a crackback hit him. Our fullback Greg Jones blocked him. We double teamed him, and then we got we got into the red zone or to the goal line. Everyone runs that same turn protection where you let the DN come free, and but all week we had said and again this is all from the preparation, don't cut him because he's waiting for the cut. He's gonna put his hands down because you're a smaller guy. Yeah. So once he puts his hand down, just hit him right in his chest. And so they called the play, and I come through, and Greg does a great job of bluffing him and shooting out to the flat, and he sure enough put his hands down thinking I was going to cut him. And I mean, hands down, man down is what they like to say in basketball, and that's what happened, so a little crossover there for him.
Yeah. And he's doing MMA now. He's got a whole MMA fighting league now. So I'm not trying to mess with that. Sean, I had nothing against you, man. I'm not trying to mess with you.
DJ, that's why I tell people, you keep bringing it up like he's going to try to MMA me, and I don't have time for that. I'm trying to do this TV thing,
I hear you, man. Hey, I know your time's valuable, buddy. I appreciate you taking some time for us today.
No problem at all.
All right, Buck, excited to have our buddy Terrell Davis join us right now. And if you're talking about the running back position, I don't know if there's anybody more qualified to discuss it than you, TD. Let's start, first of all, with the gotta-have-it's, the non-negotiables. If you're going to be a successful running back in the NFL, you've got to have what?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. Well, you've got to have, the mentality, right? It starts with that. It starts with that. You got to believe that you're the best out there. And then you have to have, I think the second thing is that you have vision. We're talking about some of the tangibles there. And vision, is to be able to see things, just not have that tunnel vision where you're just locked onto the block right in front of you. You've got to have sort of that wide screen so that you can see everything from the front side and the back side. And then instincts, right? The instincts and have spatial awareness where you're out there and certain things happen where a back makes a cut and you're like, well, how did he know that opening was there? He didn't see it. It wasn't vision. It was just his instincts took him there. And so some of the things I would be looking at are those. And then someone of a disposition, maybe a linebacker's disposition or somebody who's physical and know that it's going to be a grind. You can't be a guy that taps out when you get hit hard. So I want to see the toughness from a back as well.
So I've never told you this, but I'm going to blame you for something. I'm going to blame you for the devaluation of the running back
blame me.
And the reason why I'm going to blame you is because, one, You were found in the 6th round, and you go on to have a Hall of Fame career. So now everyone believes I can find a running back anywhere in the draft. 2, you played in a system where Mike Shanahan felt like, oh, I can just plug anybody back there and they can have success.
Yeah.
So to the naked eye, we have all of these people that are saying, oh, I can find a running back anywhere. I want you to explain the difference between those elites at the position and then the guys that are just the guys at the position. What's the difference?
Well, there's a huge difference. So just back to when I played and the everyday, 6th-round draft pick, yeah, I was drafted in the 6th round, but if you look at me before college and the way I grew up, and I would say that Georgia didn't go to California to get me because I was just a 6th-round draft pick. Georgia didn't come to California to get me because of that. So that kind of gives you an idea that it wasn't that my skills were a 6th-round draft pick. My circumstances were. I went to a school where –
That's a great way to say it.
Yeah, I didn't play well there. I got hurt. And it just wasn't, things just weren't in my favor there. The second thing, as far as the system we had in Denver, it was phenomenal because it really just emphasized a very simple model. And the model was north and south. And it was a 4-yard run. We just practiced 4-yard runs. That's it. And if you can get a 4-yard run, now you're talking about 2nd and 6. You do it again, now you're talking about 3rd and 2. And so it's a chain mover. We wanted to stay on schedule. So they just said, give me 4 yards. But after the 4 yards, it's on you. And that's where I think the difference comes when you talk about elite backs. So a coach might say, hey, I want you to give me my 3 to 4 yards, but then what can you do that's more than just a 3 or 4 yard run? And I believe that's where the elite backs give you. They're the ones that you look at and you watch them and say, I can't do that.
I'm going to talk about route running. How important is it in today's game, the running back to be a factor in the passing game, being able to get open, win one-on-one matchups, catch the ball, and do things when he has the ball in his hands?
Yeah, today more so than when I played because we ran the ball quite a bit, and today's passing game, it's required for running backs to be part of that. Otherwise,
could you play today though?
Oh yeah, I could play today.
Your style translates to today's game.
Absolutely. Now you guys need to go back and watch some tape.
I'm just asking.
Watch some tape.
I've been on the field. I played against you. I'm just saying, I mean, we never talked about in the scouting report. Hey, watch out for number 30. He
sure did.
Run routes.
He didn't.
We just talked about number 30 coming downhill and how all your guys are gonna cut everybody illegally at the point of attack.
No, I wasn't certainly a Marshall Faulk when it came to catching out of the backfield, but I think I surprised some people when you talk about catching a rock out of the backfield. A few times we had a game plan, and I hated it. We go through our first 15 plays, and I remember we had our first play. They'd motion me out of the backfield, and then they'd make me run a slant route, and they'd throw the ball to me every time. This is our first 15 plays. We're starting the game. We go through the week, and that's the play. Sleepless nights. I can't sleep on Saturday night because I don't.
Why?
I don't want the game starting off with me running a slant route. That is just not where my comfort zone.
It's a quick pass. We're just trying to get you loose, trying to get you in the mix.
Do you realize what happens to backs that try to run slant?
They go to sleep.
They go to sleep. Night. And sure enough, I don't believe I've ever caught that pass. Matter of fact, I try to sabotage it every time we'd run it in practice, try to drop it so they take it out the game plan.
You're off.
I'm going to bring this thing full circle here from the beginning when we began talking to the end, because when Buck was talking to you about your career, TD, and you used the phrase, look, you got to scout the skills, not the circumstance, and you just talk about a guy like Josh Jacobs. It was the same discussion me and Bucky were having where people were saying, well, the numbers, this, that, and the other, but it's our job to say what skills does he possess, and the circumstance where you're blowing people out and you've got a bunch of other running backs to get the ball to. As a scout, you've got to be able to sort through the circumstance and find the skills. I think that kind of is exactly what you were talking about in your situation.
Yep, absolutely. And there is a lot of talk about Josh and not having, hasn't had a 1,000-yard season in college, and the numbers weren't gaudy. But I like that. I like the fact you got a guy with low mileage on the tires. And
because y'all are devalued. Running backs are devalued. You just get anybody. Just throw anybody out there. Now
you don't even believe that. You're not even saying that with conviction.
That's what the common thought is. Like, I can find anybody off the street.
No, I think there's a balance between that too. I think when the running back started to sort of go down, there was an attachment to the salary cap. And when you have a back that is making tens of millions of dollars and he goes down, we talked about how a quarterback could ruin the franchise if you miss on him in the first round. But if you put money into a running back, and he goes down.
Oh, so that's why I get what you're saying. So I should draft him out, but never pay him a second contract.
Well, I'm not saying that either. What I'm saying is that's what happened. So then instead of putting money into one back, they started saying, okay, well, you know what? Let's not pay this back a lot of money. Let's get a second back who's kind of a complimentary piece, and then we can
never pay.
And then we can devalue him by making sure that his production, his production comes down, and then it was like a negotiating ploy. But no, backs need to be paid as much as quarterbacks need to be paid.
Oh.
Yes, I'm not there.
I can't have a $30 million.
I said that when Lev Bell was holding out. I said he needs to be paid. How is it that you got a receiver who makes more money than a running back, and he touches the ball maybe 8 times a game?
Because he's all the way out there and he's safe.
8 times a game. So
out there away from all the noise.
So his 8 times a game is going to have a greater impact than someone who's touching it 20 times a game?
Well, I mean, how do we measure that? Do we measure it by yards?
I think they're thinking length. I think they're
touchdowns.
There's a lot more 33-year-old wide receivers still floating around out there than there are 33-year-old running backs. That would be my only counterpoint. But I'm with you on the running back. Get theirs. Go get your money. I'm not against that.
Thank you, DJ.
I like running backs.
Right, see,
in the conversation, this is all twisted. I pay running backs. I pay running backs.
All right, Buck, excited to be joined by our good friend John Robinson from the Tennessee Titans. And let's talk a little bit about the running back position. And John, when you just start with a very simple question, you in the evaluation process, doesn't have to be anybody on your team, but just in general, the best running back you saw on a college football field that you evaluated was who?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say there was several. Adrian Peterson's up there. Marshawn Lynch, he's up there. There's a lot. There's been a lot of good ones that I've been able to look at over the course of my time.
What about those guys that kind of set them apart to put them on top of the hill?
Yeah, I think every back is different. Just like our stable of backs that we have here. Derrick Henry's run style it's different than Deion's run style is. The one thing that I tell our scouts and I impress upon our scouts is when they have a chance to have the ball in their hands, whether it's handed to them or thrown to them, do they make yards with it? Are they competent in blitz pickup, or is that something where you're really going to have to get them out of the backfield and throw them the ball because they just struggle in pass protection for whatever reason? I'd say with both of those guys were difference makers with the ball in their hands, whether you handed it to them or threw it to them, and you had to account for those guys on a week in and week out basis.
J-Rob, you talked about you guys being a bit of a throwback franchise in terms of still believing that you got to be able to put your hand in the dirt. You have to be able to run the ball. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to assume that you still believe that running backs are still marquee players. Why are the running backs still marquee players in a league that is trending towards the passing game and the quarterbacks?
Well, I think there's a lot of players on an offense and defense that are premium players. We just try to get as many good football players on our team as possible. But I think if you were to ask 31 other GMs, that running the football it's an important part of what every offense wants to be about. It just, like I said earlier, it really opens up the playbook when you can establish the run game. You can control what defenses are doing somewhat. So I think all of us, every team in the National Football League wants to have a sound run game so that they can build the pass game off of it.
Can't thank you enough for your time, man, and we appreciate you.
You got it. All the best to you guys. Have a great summer.
Well, Buck, look, you get a chance to talk to great players and one of the 32 general managers in the National Football League. You get an opportunity to learn something, and, man, I thought we learned a lot about the running backs.
Oh, we absolutely learned a lot about the running backs. And, look, there's a time where I feel like there's an outside attack on the running back position where everyone feels like you can just find a running back anywhere at your local YMCA. However, they still have value, and there's still a way to really insert them into the mix as a big piece of your offensive puzzle. They just need to have a certain set of requisite skills to be able to be the focal point of an offensive plan.
All right, no doubt. And when we get to the discussion about the prototype, let's throw out a name here. If we're going to look at one running back in today's game who is the prototype, who is it?
I'm going to go with Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott, to me, is the prototype of the position because he's that rugged runner with the physical style that you want as a bell cow back on the inside, but he also has the ability to be a factor in the passing game. We saw last season he was able to really make contributions to this passing game, catching the ball out of the backfield on swings, screens, option routes. being able to kind of be that new age running back. I call the new hybrid, meaning he's a focal point of the run game, but is also a big factor in the passing game.
He's a great player, and I'd have a hard time arguing against Ezekiel Elliott, so I'm not going to do that. But I am going to argue for Saquon Barkley.
I mean,
and you look
awesome.
Inside that division, look, the skills that he possesses. You saw him catch a zillion balls last year for the Giants, so we know what he can do out of the backfield. Home run hitter, check that box. We've seen all those long runs. But the criticism of him coming through the draft process, which I wasn't fully on board with, people talk about, he doesn't get those dirty yards. He won't lower his shoulder and power through tackles. I thought I saw a little bit of that last year. I think you're going to see more of it in the coming year. To me, if I'm trying to build a running back, I start with that running back for the New York Giants at Saquon Barkley.
I don't think you can go wrong with either guy. When we saw Saquon Barkley coming out of Penn State, we felt like he was kind of that new school prototype. A lot of people focus on the rushing impact and the rushing yards, and we always talked about total touches. No, his impact is not going to be just as a runner, but as a guy that can do a little bit of everything. Catch the ball out the backfield, run it with power and authority. He did that as a rookie. I think he will continue to be a guy that kind of sets the standard as one of the standard bearers as a position.
And if you enjoyed those conversations, this series, it's been a blast. One of the favorite things we've had a chance to do here since we started the Move the Sticks podcast. Go to NFL.com/MTS Prototype, and you'll be able to find the entire series where we go one position at a time and have more great conversations like the ones you just heard. All right, Buck, time now for Training Camp Spotlight presented by New Era. And, man, I wouldn't mind throwing on one of these lids right now, but I have a hard time choosing between those teams because there's a lot of good options.
A lot of good options.
We'll leave these beautiful hats on the table, and let's jump right in here. NFC East, AFC East. You ready to roll?
Let's do it.
All right, I'll take care of the NFC East, go team by team and what we're looking for. Starting with the team that won the division last year, the Dallas Cowboys.
America's team.
Yeah, I've heard that once or twice. When we look at what to focus on there, I think a lot of people having that debate all offseason, Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, who's more important for the success of this football team? I'm not going there. I'm going to go to the player they brought into this offense last year, and everybody forgets the guy who changed everything, who got this offense rolling, was Amari Cooper, the wide receiver. And we saw flashes of great play in Oakland. We did not see consistency. Last year we saw that great player that we all thought we were going to get coming out of Alabama. My question is, do we see that player through a full 16-week season with the Cowboys? If we do, they got something special.
Yeah, they could have something special on the outside because he did play like a number one wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, and he was beginning to benefit and really change the way opponents had to cover the big three, Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, and Amari Cooper. Can he sustain it? That is the trick. That is the key. He's been a two-time Pro Bowler, but can he take his game to another level to really be a dominant player, one that we talk about as a top five guy at a position?
All right, let's get to the team that also went to the postseason last year, the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off a 9-7 campaign. And again, low-hanging fruit, Carson Wentz. Can he stay healthy? Can he produce at a very high level? Can we see that MVP level of play we saw from him before he got hurt in that Super Bowl run? Buck, I look at that offense and I look at the people they have in place. Dallas Goedert, to me, is a name to keep an eye on because we know about Zach Ertz, already established himself as one of the top young tight ends. Everything I heard in the offseason, Dallas Goedert has taken his level of play to a new level in year number 2. They're going to live in those two tight end sets. You're going to see Deshaun Jackson. You'll see some deep routes there with him. You'll see Nelson Aguilar. You'll see the big man in Alshon Jeffrey. Dallas Goedert's going to be the missing ingredient to take this offense to the next level.
Oh, I absolutely believe it because I believe the Eagles, when they jump in their 12 personnel package, meaning one back, two tight ends, two wide receivers, they're going to give people a lot of problems. You think about Deshaun Jackson being on the outside, Alshon Jeffrey, and then having Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, two guys who basically are jumbo wide receivers who also have the ability to play tight end. A lot of flexibility, a lot of versatility. That offense should be ready to roll with Carson Wentz fully healthy, returning back to the QB1 spot.
All right, let's go to the Washington Redskins. I feel like, again, focusing a lot on the quarterbacks in this division, but can I just state my opinion on this one with the Washington Redskins? The question is not who's going to win the quarterback competition with the Washington Redskins. The question is, why are you having a quarterback competition with the Washington Redskins? This should be Dwayne Haskins' job. Put him out there. Let's see what he can do. I don't care what he looks like the first 4 weeks. Let's let him grow and develop. 1 year as a starter, right, at Ohio State, two schools of thought. One is he's not ready to play.
Yep.
The other one is he needs to play. He hadn't played. You got to get him out there, get him some reps. That's what I believe. I think he's mentally tough. I think he's physically tough. Going to be some struggles early on. But I want to see this young guy on the field. I want to see him grow.
I think this would be the challenge between the front office and the coaching staff. the coaching staff may be ready to go with the older player that may give them an opportunity to win more games right now. The front office could be like, hey, let's start a developmental plan. Because as we've seen people go, hey, put a young quarterback out there their first year, let's figure out what he needs around him. Second year, he goes to another level. So it'll be interesting to see what the Washington Redskins decide to do. Bruce Allen has a tough decision to make heading into the regular season.
All right, we get to the New York Giants, team coming off of a 5-win season. Saquon Barkley, superstar, right? We'll see what happens at the quarterback position. Eli Manning, Daniel Jones. I have a feeling Eli Manning, we're going to see a lot of him at least the first half of the season. What I'm focusing on are the two other rookies. You look at DeAndre Baker, the corner, and Dexter Lawrence, guy your pops coached in high school, defensive lineman, who the knock on him, not really a polished pass rusher.
Yes.
So how high do you take somebody that's a big run stuffer? Can he develop as a pass rusher? DeAndre Baker, can he be a number one corner in a draft class? Really, let's be honest, it's one of the weaker corner draft classes we've seen in quite some time. So, to me, a lot of pressure on those two. A lot of attention on Daniel Jones, their first round pick. Let's keep an eye on those other two rookies.
Yeah, I think those other two have a lot of pressure because they have to perform. Because right now they got to show up and show out. Dexter Lawrence being on the inside, they let Snacks Harrison go in the middle of the year last year. They need someone that can definitely get after and stop the run, but they need someone that can also get after quarterback on the inside. We'll see if Dexter's able to do it. But on the outside, DeAndre Baker has to be an absolute baller. They took him in the first round. They need him to step up and make those plays. And we'll see. I like some of the physical stuff that he brings to the table, but I still worry about that top-end speed. And he's in a division with some real dudes on the outside, so he has to be able to hold up.
All right, let's flip things over to the AFC East.
And look, the New England Patriots are always there. We kind of, I don't want to say we penciled them in. You maybe kind of pinned them into the AFC Championship game. I'm going to pin them in again. But the big challenge for the Patriots this year is how do they survive without Rob Gronkowski? Rob Gronkowski been such a fixture for them, a difference maker. How do they continue to move on when he's not there? Can they find another tight end? Or who are the offensive weapons that they can lean on? I like what they have in the backfield, but on the perimeter, who are going to be the guys?
Let's see N'Keal Harry. Let's see what he's got.
Well, we have
tough
to see
for a rookie to get on the field. In this offense.
A lot of moving parts in this offense. A lot of shifting and adjusting on the fly. That could be tough for a guy coming right out of college.
No doubt. Who's up next?
The Miami Dolphins.
By the way, you're talking about Miami Dolphins. This might be the best. That's the best lid, the best new era lid.
You think
right
so?
Here.
You think that's the best lid?
The colors.
I would
nice.
say it would be the best lid if it had the old logo. That's not New Era's fault. That is the Miami Dolphins. Hey, go back to the throwback logo.
I see absolutely nothing wrong with that logo.
Go back to the throwback.
The throwback. Hat.
It's a beautiful hat, but go back to the throwback logo. Go back to Larry Zonk and Jim Kick and Mercury Morris that the undefeated. Like go to
Nothing
that
wrong
lid
with that hat.
with the nice uniforms.
The best one. There's a lot of good hats. That's the best one.
So there's a reason why we're talking so much about the Miami Dolphins lid in their uniform.
Not the team.
We worry about the team. We're worried about Brian Flores and what he inherited. You just don't know.
By the way, what did he inherit?
I mean, he inherited a team. They have a team. They have logos. They're 1 of 32. But it starts with quarterback. Who is your quarterback? Is it Josh Rosen? Is it Ryan Fitzpatrick? Once you settle that debate, then you have to determine who are they going to throw to on the outside. I like Kenny Stills, but is he enough? Devontae Parker coming back. Can he give them something? They need more on offense. The running back situation, I like Kenyon Drake, but they kind of Kellen Balazs.
Got elite left tackle.
Yeah, that's it. He probably would be the poster boy. Then on defense, I just don't know what they're going to do. But as we've seen, in New England, they've kind of done it with a bunch of no-namers. Can Brian Flores take that blueprint and duplicate it and replicate it in Miami?
I'd be interested to see some young DBs. They have some talent there in the secondary. I think that'll
Xavier Howard.
He's a stud, and also Minka Fitzpatrick is.
Yeah, Minka's a nice player too.
They got a couple pieces there. They got a long way to go before they're a consistently competitive football team. All right, who's next?
Here we go, Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, the excitement has to be about number 17, Josh Allen. What does Josh Allen do in his second season? This is a guy that flashed. Look, we knew he was a talented thrower. We worried about I don't know if anyone thought he could be this dynamic as a runner. Well, now that you've seen him run and do some things with his legs, how do you build an offense around it? We saw them make a tremendous amount of upgrades. They really tried to upgrade the perimeter.
Track
Cole
team.
Beasley,
got
a bunch of fast guys on the outside. But now, how do they put it together? And the running back stable. They got a bunch of old vets that if this was 2009, 10, we'd be excited about Shady McCoy and Frank Gore. But what are those guys going to be like in 2019? Can those guys still give you some production?
We'll see if both those guys get to the starting block.
Oh, whoa.
We'll see. I don't know if they're going to be able to carry all these vets. They got to get some young blood in there at some point in time. Devin Singletary, don't sleep on him.
No, Devin Singletary may have to be a player because you talk about Shady McCoy kind of fell off the cliff. Frank Gore is the old vet. You don't want to count on him a lot. He's just kind of there to break out in case of emergency. We'll see how the Buffalo Bills proceed.
All right, we got one more here. Who are we missing?
Look, man, it's all about
what we got here.
the New York Jets.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good looking.
That's a pretty good list. Look, your guy Joe D takes over as a general manager. Adam Gase takes over as the head coach. They have inherited a quarterback in Sam Darnold. Now, I like what the previous regime tried to do in trying to surround Sam Darnold with some guys. Went and got Le'Veon Bell. The easiest way to take some pressure off the quarterback, get a talented runner, and a running back who is also like a second wide receiver, and Le'Veon Bell. Had a year off, so he has to shake off the rust. But if he returns to being the guy that we saw that was a special player, kind of an all-time player at the position, he is going to help Sam Darnold really find his way.
I can't wait to watch Quinnen Williams and Leonard Williams. The Williams bros inside.
No, his defense. Had an offseason conversation with Jamal Adams. He talked about their defense. He talked about falling in love with Greg Williams and how they're going to come after people. Talked about the right mentality.
C.J. Mosley.
Being able to attack. C.J. Mosley coming in. A lot of people talked about, did they overpay C.J. Mosley? But when you turn on the tape, this guy's a difference maker. Say what you want to about the cost. You put C.J. Mosley beside Jamal Adams. Then you have Quinnen Williams and Leonard Williams. Defenses have to be strong right down the middle. They are strong right down the pipe.
Couple things. They've got to find an edge rusher somewhere. I don't know if they have one.
Somebody
on the
has to do
right
it
now. They've got a nice mix inside. They can rotate guys on the inside. Henry Anderson's another good player. Finding an edge rusher, and Tremaine Johnson, if he could somehow get back to form,
he has to get back to form.
That would be huge for that secondary.
Absolutely, he has to get back to form. He has to play like a big-time player, the marquee free agent that he was signed to be.
Oh, there you go. Well, that was Training Camp Spotlight, presented by New Era, focusing on those teams in the East, the NFC East, the AFC East. All right, Buck, that's about going to do it for us today.
Man, that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Football's back.
It's so nice. I'm so happy when we actually have games. We can talk about games, what we see on the field, not what we're hoping to see on the field. That's when it really gets fun.
Yeah, that's when it becomes a lot of fun. And I think the people should be excited. Football is upon us.
And throughout the football season, whether you're a fan of the NFL draft, you like a little bit of college football, you like NFL football, we've got all those needs covered for you. NFL.com/podcast. You can find our Move the Sticks podcast. NFL.com/MTS video. YouTube.com/NFL. You can find all of our video content here with Bucky Brooks and myself, and we've got you covered through the entire football calendar, which really is, it's a 12-month calendar right now.
Come on, year-round. Football is year-round. Football is still king.
I believe it was Bill Belichick said no days off.
No days off.
And we're living that mantra right now. All right, thanks for watching Move the Sticks, presented by New Era.